I know you've just experienced with Peter kind of poking and prodding a little bit, asking questions, helping you kind of see some things and help you focus on certain things in a place from love, coming from a place of love. And so I'd really like for you guys to hear his story, because it'll help explain not only why he is the way he is and why he cares so passionately about you all living the life you want to live, simply because of where he's come from, but also he's going to share some things that have been some breakthroughs for him that maybe you guys would also benefit from as well. Would you guys enjoy hearing that?
Yes!
All right, let's, Peter, you want to come up and share?
Thank you, I appreciate it, man. I like how you pointed it out, so you guys can tell why he is the way he is. And I was like, okay, why he is the way he is.
Had to get that in there.
So listen, I want to share my story with you guys to kind of give you an idea of what I've kind of gone through in my life and why I'm able to live the life, my own vision, the way I am right now, and what it took for me to do that. But one thing that I want you guys to hear when you guys are listening to my story is try it down how it possibly can apply to you in your own life. Like, inspect into your own life and see if there's something like that for yourself. You guys with me? Because one of the reasons why I want to share my story with you to have some impact in your life, to give you guys an insight to why things are the way you are in your life, why things are happening that way, and because God took me through some things in my life that I believe is the reason why I'm sitting in this chair in front of you guys today, and why I'm able to poke at you like that, or you, or whoever it might be, right? So just looking for yourself in your life. So I'm going to talk about 3 different things. The first thing I'm going to call what's called blind spots. What I mean by that is, you know how you drive in a car, you have the blind spot in your car? Well, you don't see that car forever, right? If it's in a blind spot. And then, minute something changes, whether he moves faster or slower, or you move faster or slower, you start changing your lane, that split second you see him in a mirror, and you change your course, right? Well, consider that every single one of us has those kinds of blind spots. And they, most of the time, been formed when we were kids. So I'm going to talk about my own blind spots to see how that can help you guys. The second thing I'm going to talk about is accountability, because especially for people pleasers like myself, that's a big thing, right? Accountability is huge. And the third thing, I'm going to talk about big why. And I think you kind of touched on your why right now, because I think here's the thing, guys. In life, when you're up to something big, and since you guys are here for this 3 days, I know you are up to something big in life. You want to make an impact. Why is what's going to carry you to get there. Because life will happen, it will hit you upside the head, it will do something, and something's going to try to deter you from that. You guys with me?
Yes.
All right, so a couple of things before I get started. As Bojo kind of alluded, transcripts from my talk are at the back table. That's a joke, by the way, people. All right, second joke, I'm from Texas. All right, that don't land either. All right, here's the thing, guys. I'm originally from Poland. I was born there in a small little town down southern Poland. And the first 8 years of my life, or so, first 7, 8 years, were fairly not very good. Because as I started, walking and getting to know my environment, seeing what's happening, I've noticed that my dad was an alcoholic, like really bad, abusive alcoholic. And I remember a time where I've actually he was in military, had this big belt, like leather belt, and I got hit with it one time so bad I couldn't sit for like 2 weeks. So, and when they bring alcoholism into it, you know how that can kind of happen, right? So I remember one incident by the way, for the first 7, 8 years, we lived in this hotel. Because back then, Poland was a communist country. And the way the communism works is how? We provide everything for you, and you provide labor for us, right? Well, everything for us, what it meant is my mom worked like 2 jobs. My dad, and they were like kind of minimum wage, worked like in a newspaper, doing something in newspapers, I don't remember what. And the second thing was my dad didn't really work because he was out drinking. And we lived in this 12 by 12 room, and that was our bedroom, our living room, our dining room, there was a little kitchenette off to the side. We had like a little dryer. It was literally this big. You could literally put like 2 towels in there and they would dry at the time. And the bathrooms were down the hallway. It was like a public restroom. So we all went down there. Can you imagine a little Polish kid running down the hallway in a little towel, trying to go shower and come back? So I remember one day, I was probably around 7 years old, and 6, 7 years old, and my dad came home drunk. And he's banging on the door, woke not only us up, but like the neighbors. He gets in, and he starts asking my mom for money. And it starts out just kind of yelling, and then starts getting physical. To a point where they're like really fighting. And my mom was pregnant at the time, like towards the end of the pregnancy. And I remember, like it was yesterday, he pushed her or he punched her and she fell down to the ground and he's kicking her. Like literally kicking her on the ground. And I'm trying to like save her, like trying to do something, and I jump on him, he throws me off. So I'm like kind of like a panic mode. I go into the kitchenette, grab a frying pan, and now there was a couch, we had the arm on the couch. I stood up on that couch, arm, behind him, and I hit him over the head with a frying pan. And he fell down to the ground. In that moment, I remember like it was yesterday, I said to myself in my little brain, I said, listen, I will never be like you. Nobody likes you right now. I don't like you right now. I don't ever want to be Tata like you are. Do you guys see how that could happen in the kid's head?
Yeah.
Now, when you say something like that to yourself, I will never be like you. I'm going to make sure that people like me because nobody likes you. What kind of a person comes out of that? People pleaser, right? My whole life, I was pleasing people, trying to do good things, trying to help them. And guess who was miserable in that time? Me. And my close family. So, that happened, and actually after that, I remember he was laying on the floor, and I ran out of the house because my mom was lying there, and I had to run across like 2-3 miles in the middle of the night to get police to come and get him. Because I don't know what he was going to do when he gets up. So they came in, they arrested him for a day, and the next morning he got out. I was scared that he's going to do something to me because I did that to him. So shortly thereafter, I found out that my mom comes to me and she's like, listen, Mama and Tata are getting divorced. And I'm like, okay. So then she has a conversation with me, she sits me down, she goes, well, listen, you might have to go to court and sit in front of the judge and people and tell them which parent you want to be with. And I'm like, I want to do that. Like, what kid wants to pick between their parents, right? Thankfully, that never actually happened. But when I was about 8 years old, my parents finally got divorced. We got kicked out of that place because now it's not a marriage, right? So communism is like, whoops, bye. And what happened was my aunt, she got a visa, like an invitational visa from one of our uncles from the United States here. Man, I need that, all right. So she got a visa and she said to my mom, listen, you guys have no money. Why don't you take that visa? And however they figured it out, I don't know how, but my mom ended up with a visa to come to the United States, make some money, and then come back for us, right? In the meantime, my aunt said, I'll take you kids and spend with us. So, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, but back then, especially I think right now too, the United States is like a land of opportunity. So that's what everybody will come here from Europe, make some money, and then go back, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So, my next thing I know, my mom comes to me, listen, I gotta go to the United States, and we're gonna make some money, and then I'm gonna come, and we're gonna make a new life for ourselves. You're gonna go live with aunt and uncle. And I go, well, I don't want you to go. And she's like, but I have to go. But I said, I don't want you to go, stay with me. She's like, no, but I gotta go, I gotta make money. So I'm pleading with her. I'm asking her, all the way to the freaking airport. I don't know if you guys remember back then, like you could literally walk up to the plane, to the gate, right, without security. So In the moment, I finally see her, like, gives me a hug, and she walks off onto that thing, right, that you go down to the plane, and I realize that's happening. And guess what? If I can't convince my own mom to stay with me, who can I ever convince? My own mom, she won't stay, she won't listen to me. Who can I actually ever have listened to me? Do you guys see how that could happen? So what now? Guess what? By the way, later in life, I started my own business. You know what? Marketing. Go figure, right? Somebody who's like, by the way, do you think it's an accident I have a very loud voice? I'm trying to get people to hear me. Do you guys get that? How that works sometimes? So we go live with my aunt and my uncle. Things are getting a lot better now because what happens is they have like a mansion. I mean, on my standards, it was like a 3-story building. It's like a mansion. I'm living in heaven kind of thing, right? So they're great parents. So between ages 8 and 14, we lived there. I started new school, got friends. I was in this dance group back in Poland. Roger's gonna laugh at me, but we were like literally traveling across the country and started traveling across Europe, performing on stages. It was like a big deal for me, right? And so when I'm 14, my mom, oh, by the way, here's a cool little story. Between 8 and 14, when my mom was here and I was there, now we communicated through letters. Those were the thing. We recorded little tapes and we would send it to her. And she would call us once in a while. But she would call the city hall. And let's say Sunday morning at like 10 a.m. And then the guy who lived in the city hall would come over to our house and said to us, so-and-so called, your mom called, she's going to call back at 1 o'clock. And then we would go there around 1, wait for her to call, and sometimes it would be like 15, 20, 30 minutes later, she finally gets through, and we'd talk for like literally 2 minutes. It was like hi-bye, because the minute cost like $50,000 a minute kind of a thing, right? And it literally sounded like she was across the ocean, like you could hardly hear her. So it just shows you how technology works, right? So she comes back when we're 14 years old, and for vacation. So I'm all excited. I finally see my mom or whatever, which my sister was kind of looking at her like a stranger, because she never had real experience with her. But she comes out, and we're having fun, doing these different things, In about 2 weeks before she was going back to the United States, she sits me and my sister down, and she goes, kids, guess what? You guys are coming back to the United States with me. What do you think my response was? I don't want to go. I have an awesome life. I love my life here. She's like, no, you guys are coming with me. I bought a house over there. It's a great house. You guys going to come with me? I'm like, I don't want to go. And she's like, no, you're coming with me. And that went on until I'm on a plane. And guess what? Reinforced my realization that what? No one listens to me. Do you see how that works? So here's the funny thing about the airplane. This was my first time ever on an airplane. And from Poland to here, it's like a 10, 11-hour flight. So at some point, you have to go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom. You know how the toilet sounds when you flush it on there? I thought I broke the plane. I was scared to death. Like, sat in the bathroom for like 5 minutes, trying to make sure nothing happened. Then I went to the seat, and I sat like as quiet as a mouse for like the next 2 hours because I was afraid somebody's going to come and get me. Like one of the attendants or the pilot's going to come and like reprimand me. So we get here, and by the way, so finally like I'm on a plane, all right, fine, we'll go to the United States. And I'm thinking the United States is this land of opportunity. It's great. There is palm trees. There is skyscrapers, beautiful weather, beautiful cars, like sports cars, 14-year-old boy, beautiful women, right? And all that kind of stuff. Guess where I got that, by the way, from? TV. Beverly Hills Cop when he's in Hollywood. I'm not kidding. That's what it was, right? And I end up in Detroit. And I'm like, where are the palm trees? Skyscrapers, there is fuel. Where are the beautiful women? And all that kind of stuff, right? So I come here, no English. The next day, literally, we'll end up going to the high school. to take a few tests, get put in high school, and I started going through there, learn the language, which, by the way, English is really fun to learn. Isn't it? I remember talking to my teacher, and I was like, tell me, am I Polish or am I Polish? Which one is it? The word is exactly the same. She's trying to explain to me it's all about context. I'm like, whatever. But yeah, that's fun. So went through high school, graduated from high school, learned the language. Actually, I'm still learning. Went to college, got a degree in architecture because I had a big influence from my uncle. He literally built his entire house by himself. Literally down to furniture in the house. Everything. Hard worker, that was him. You know what I mean? But I actually hung out probably 5-6 hours out of those 12, 13 hours that he worked in his workshop with him. And that's what influenced me, you know? So, got a degree in architecture. As I'm going through my school, I was doing part-time work at this catering restaurant where, you know, we did weddings and everything. First I was a busboy. I got the job when I was 15. Then moved up to, actually not busboy, dishwasher. Then I moved up to a busboy, then a waiter, then a head waiter, then a bartender. So as I'm doing the head waiter part and everything, I would be in charge of the whole, you know, wedding. So one day I come in and I see this girl across the room, and she's sort of standing back to me, beautiful blonde hair. I didn't see that back then in Poland, right? To me it was like a big deal, you know? I see her, I'm like, how you doing? So short, 7 years later, we get married. Only took 7 years. So, yeah, so we get married, we, get a house, we have our first kid. She's 7, she's a girl. We get a second kid a few years later, third kid a few years later. So we have 3 kids now. And 2007, 2008 comes around, right? And I'm doing architecture. And what's happening is, I don't know how it was here in Dallas, but in Michigan, when that thing hit, I'll tell you guys this. I was developing this huge senior housing building. It was 3 stories, humongous. And it was part of this square mile development because it was right across from the GM plant. Because they bought it, a bunch of developers got together and bought off the whole piece of land, the square mile. And there were single family houses, there was duplexes, there was the senior housing, shops, Myers kind of stuff, right? When that hit, GM let go a bunch of people. Guess what? Those developers, some of them, all they had to do is put a door or finish paint on that house, and that's it. And they literally picked up and left. They left the houses just like they were. They didn't even bother finishing them. And all there was is a pane or a door. Because they knew they couldn't sell it. So as this thing was happening, I'm like, I gotta do something different, right? So I started my part-time company because I was always infatuated with the internet, kind of started back then, and marketing, and how to have conversation with people to so they listen to me, and real estate, right? So I'm like, how do I put those 2-3 things together? So I started learning the school of hard knocks, learning different things, and I created a system that helped real estate agents, investors, sell their houses on the internet or market their business on the internet. It was called a Real Estate Black Book. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but it was way back then. So I started doing this part-time, got my own course. I would go to RIAs, I would sell on stages, my course, and life was starting getting better, Come home, sometimes in the evening I would work on some of that stuff. So this one time, I am driving back from this one event. And I was really excited because it was one of my best events ever that I've done there. The amount of courses I sold was insane, it was really awesome. And I'm so excited, I'm top of my game, and finally things are changing. And I am driving home, call my wife, and I'm telling her, it's finally getting better, we're so excited. She's like, good. So I get home, and she's kind of short, you know what I mean? Husbands, when your wife is kind of short, she doesn't say much, something's wrong, right? So I keep poking, what's wrong, right? We go to bed, and we're laying there in bed, and I'm like, what's wrong? She finally gets up, and she goes, okay, you want to know what's wrong? I'm I'm like, uh-oh. So we go into the living room, and she says, I want a divorce. My jaw dropped to the floor. I'm like, why? She's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. I can't be, I can't take this anymore. Take what? Do what? She's like, you don't, listen, you don't do this. You don't, she's like pointing all these kinds of things. And I'm like, who are you talking